I've been talking all week about things my parents taught me about life when I was growing up. I mean the kinds of things that we commonly hold to be virtues. Truth is, I suspect you learned the same lessons from your parents as well. I would be foolish to think that my parents were the only ones who taught virtue to their children. One of the most important virtues I learned, both by listening and by watching, is the importance of being kind to others. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. Sad to say, kindness appears hard to come by these days. In a fraught political climate, and with all of us suffering a little bit from what is being called COVID fatigue, nerves are frayed, and even the kindest people among us lose their temper and treat others unkindly from time to time. I have to admit that I am sometimes tempted to let out an unkind word now and again. I'll bet you feel the same way. The Bible actually says a lot about kindness. When Job's friends argue with him to try to convince him that his misfortunes, the death of his children, the loss of his livestock and livelihood, the diseases and sores that beset his body, that they are the result of his own sins, an increasingly agitated Job argues back and in one instance laments their lack of kindness to him in his distress. He says, "Those who withhold kindness from a friend forsake the fear of the Almighty." Clearly, there is something important about kindness. The prophet Micah includes kindness in his famous admonition about what it is that pleases God. "He has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God." But it is Paul who makes the most of it, including it in his famous list in Galatians 5 of the fruits of the Spirit. Over and over, he includes kindness in lists of important traits and virtues of the people of God. My two favorite passages in this regard are Ephesians 4:31 through 32, which says, "Put away from you all bitterness and wrath and anger and wrangling and slander, together with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ has forgiven you." The other is Colossians 3:12 through 14, which I frequently use as my charge to new officers, to confirmands joining the church, and to couples I've just married. Paul says, "As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony." So why is kindness so important? And why, oh why, is it in such short supply these days? That gets to the very heart of human nature. Life in the world can be harsh. People compete with one another for scarce resources. Political parties contend with one another to establish their vision of what kinds of laws are most just. Nations vie with one another for geopolitical advantage in trade and transportation routes. Constant competition like this breeds a disregard for others. When there is only so much to go around, only so many resources to satisfy so many demands, and when it comes down to one person against another, kindness has a way of going out the window, to be replaced by aggressiveness and disregard for the well-being of others. If we didn't practice kindness, life would be, as Thomas Hobbes' 17th century poem Leviathan put it, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. kindness is one of the virtues that actually makes civilized life possible. Oh, sure, we can have cooperation without it, but kindness is something more than simply cooperation. Kindness is a demonstration that we regard the well-being of others as inherently important. If this season has shown us anything, it has given us a glimpse of what life would be like without the moderating influence of kindness. Frankly, it's not a world I care to inhabit. For my part, I plan to continue to practice kindness even when it is hard. After all, what are the alternatives? And now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.